Rey Mysterio was injured in his match against Santos Escobar on SmackDown, and the person to blame is his very own son, Dominik Mysterio, who interfered in the match. And now, sadly, Rey Mysterio is in the hospital, as there is an update about Rey's current condition. It was just 2 weeks ago when Rey Mysterio returned from injury after being out for months. And on SmackDown, he had his return match against one of his arch rivals and former friend, Santos Escobar. But something happened in the match, something very tragic that will change Rey forever. We saw signs that not all was right with Rey Mysterio and his injured leg. The first sign was when Rey tried to jump off the middle rope and he stumbled, and then he couldn't walk on that leg and he almost fell down and he grabbed at his leg, and many thought that he wouldn't be able to continue in the match because he re-injured the very leg he had surgery on, and that caused him to be out from WWE for several months. But Rey soldiered on, even though it was obvious he was not 100%. And just moments later, another botch from Rey Mysterio due to his leg. Rey had a hold of Santos Escobar. Rey jumped to the top rope, but he lost his balance, as it seems he couldn't stay on that top rope because he couldn't balance himself due to his bad leg that he had re-injured just moments before. Even the commentators were shocked at Rey's performance in this match, how his leg was causing him to have major botches, and it had to be very embarrassing for the almost 50-year-old Rey Mysterio. You really felt for him, and you wanted him to do great in his return match, but unfortunately, it was obvious he returned too soon. But things would get even worse from there. Rey was on the outside, on the ring apron, and he was about to do a high-risk move off of the top rope and springboard off it. However, just before he was about to jump onto the top rope, somebody in a Rey Mysterio mask grabbed his leg, and Rey fell over the rope very awkwardly. And it was obvious that that bad leg that Rey re-injured earlier in the match got injured even more. And the person in the Rey Mysterio mask who tripped up Rey, causing further injury to him, was his very own son, Dominik Mysterio. But now, just a short while after SmackDown went off the air, there is a major update about the current condition of Rey Mysterio. Let's get to that right now. Rey Mysterio ended up losing his match against Santos Escobar after Dominik tripped him up and Rey fell over the rope, further injuring his leg. And Santos easily pinned him, and Santos won the match. And it was unfortunate that Rey Mysterio lost his return match in embarrassing fashion. And obviously, to be re-injured in your return match after being out for months, having surgery on your leg, and have the worst possible thing happen in the match, being injured once again. So why exactly was Dominik Mysterio there? Dominik and Rey have not crossed paths in a very long time, but it's WrestleMania season, and obviously WWE wants to have the biggest stars, the biggest feuds, and they probably believe interjecting Dominik Mysterio into Rey's feud with Santos Escobar will garner a lot more attention compared to if they just did Santos versus Rey. And now fans are really going to be interested because Dominik versus Rey is one of the most popular and memorable feuds in recent memory in WWE. But they were pulled apart because Dominik went to Raw and Rey was on SmackDown, and Rey was injured for nearly 6 months. So now that Rey is back, and Dominik really hasn't done much since losing his NXT North American Championship. So, WrestleMania season, and Dominik doesn't really have much to do. The Santos versus Rey feud really wasn't garnering a lot of attention. Okay, Dominik and Rey, the feud's back on. Unfortunately, that decision proved to be very bad and costly for Rey Mysterio, as now Rey Mysterio, according to reports, is once again injured. And we all saw it during that match, that Rey was not himself and that he was in bad condition. And unfortunately, his very own son made it a lot worse. And now we are learning that after SmackDown went off the air, Rey Mysterio was taken by ambulance to the hospital. And that is where Rey Mysterio currently is. He is in serious but stable condition, as doctors are working around the clock to figure out what exactly is going on with Rey. It could be he returned too soon, or his age has finally caught up with him. But Rey has to be very angry at his son Dominik for causing him to get injured again and to be now laying in a hospital bed, wondering, where did it go so wrong? Why did this have to happen? What will the future hold for Rey Mysterio? But those decisions cannot be made until doctors figure out what exactly is wrong with Rey Mysterio. And the question is, how does Dominik feel that he put his dad back in the hospital? In just about 8 months, Rey Mysterio will be turning 50 years old. Not many wrestlers can stay active as long as Rey Mysterio. Usually an injury ends your career and you have to go into forced retirement, or you lose a step and you no longer can compete with younger wrestlers. For Rey Mysterio, prior to the injury he suffered last year, he could keep up with younger wrestlers. He still had it. But in his match against Santos, it was hard to watch. It was seeing a once great wrestler not be his normal self. But the hope is that all that happened early in the match when you had those botches, it was just ring rust. Rey has not wrestled in nearly 6 months. He had surgery on his leg. Yeah, you're not going to be 100%. And because Rey does a lot of high-flying moves, there's going to be botches, especially in your return match. So before we start saying Rey's done, he's too old, we have to cut him some slack. And we have to realize that he's been out for a long time. This is his first match back. He's not going to be perfect, but over time, he will get better. The only problem is he re-injured that bad leg. So the botches could have been caused by ring rust, but that ring rust caused Rey to get injured. And then obviously when his son Dominik grabbed his leg and sent him tumbling over the top rope, it made the injury he sustained earlier in the match even worse. This is obviously bad news for Rey Mysterio, who was so hopeful his return to WWE would include a great run, a championship run. But now it's over before it ever really began. And as for his son, Dominik Mysterio, showing up wearing Rey's mask, obviously very disrespectful to his father. But what else do you expect from Dominik? He's a disrespectful person, especially when it comes to his very own father. Many hoped that after Rey returned, he would be able to make Dominik realize the error of his ways and they would reunite. Rey Mysterio has said, "I still have love for my son, and nothing will change that. Even if he hates me, even if he loathes me, even if he wants to injure me, I will always love him." Whereas Dominik, he just says, Rey's a deadbeat dad. It's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate that it's all come to this. And as for what is the future for Rey and Dominik in WWE, well, first Rey has to get out of the hospital for anything to happen. Because if WWE was hoping to have Rey versus Dominik Part 2, well, that plan is currently on hold because we don't know how serious this injury is to Rey. Obviously, the hope is he will be out of the hospital very soon and he can return to WWE. Unfortunately, with how bad the injury looked in his match against Santos, it doesn't look like Rey is going to return anytime soon. Very unfortunate, very sad, and let's hope this is not the end of Rey Mysterio in WWE. That he might have to retire. He might have to cut his career short. But even if Rey does have to basically leave WWE, he's already a Hall of Famer. He had an amazing career. So there's nothing to regret. There is nothing to be upset about, except that we won't be able to see brand new Rey Mysterio matches, Rey continuing to be on WWE TV. Rey is one of the most popular wrestlers in WWE. Now, sometimes WWE doesn't act like it. Rey should 100% be in the world title picture, and he's not. Obviously, he was a U.S. champion last year, but it was a very short run. And then when he got injured, any plans of being a champion again were put on hold. And Rey 100% should be main eventing pay-per-views, possibly against Roman Reigns, or over on Raw against Seth Rollins. Rey's a former world champion. And once again, Rey is one of the most popular wrestlers in WWE, but sometimes WWE doesn't book him like one of the most popular wrestlers or one of the most recognizable wrestlers. And obviously some are worried that WWE might look at this match with Rey versus Santos and they might say, yeah, Rey's time in WWE is over. Nearing 50 years old, botching moves, harder to recover from injury. Yeah, it's time, unfortunately, to ask Rey to retire. Now, obviously, nobody wants that. Absolutely nobody wants that. But, WWE sometimes can force people into retirement. Look at Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was the general manager of Raw. He was wrestling in some matches. And then they decided to do a Kurt Angle retirement match at WrestleMania against Baron Corbin. And Kurt lost that match, unfortunately. No wrestler should lose their retirement match, but WWE does like to defeat wrestlers on their way out, and it's unfortunate that Kurt had to lose that match. And hopefully Rey does not have his career ended in this Santos match, because if this turns out to be the final match of Rey Mysterio in WWE, it will not sit well with people, and they'll want Rey to come back and just at least have one match just to finish it up. But hopefully WWE does not decide to defeat Rey Mysterio in that final match. It would be terrible if they had, let's say, Rey's last match, if Rey gets out of the hospital, and in his last match he's going to go against Dominik Mysterio. Rey 100% should defeat Dominik Mysterio. It should not be Dominik defeating his father, because AEW did the right thing by having Sting win his final match. And when Rey Mysterio does have his final match, if he does come back to WWE after being in the hospital, then they need to allow Rey to have that final match, but have him win, go out on top. But with WWE's history of defeating people on the way out, unfortunately, that may not happen. But just like when Cody Rhodes replaced The Rock because fans demanded it, hopefully WWE will listen to the fans once again, and they will do the right thing by having Rey win his last match. But hopefully, if he does come back, his last match won't be anytime soon. Rey is still under contract, and he has several more years left on his contract. So if Rey does come back, his last match hopefully won't be for a very, very long time. And as far as Dominik Mysterio, let's face it, his career prior to attacking his father on SmackDown was on a downward spiral. He was not doing well. After losing the NXT North American Championship, he really had nothing. Supposedly, he was going to feud with Brock Lesnar, but obviously Brock Lesnar, after the Vince McMahon scandal, was erased from WWE. So Dominik really hasn't had much to do except lose. Obviously, he was put in a match against CM Punk's return match at a house show at Madison Square Garden in New York City. And Dominik lost that match. And Dominik has continued losing. He has won very rarely. And it's unfortunate because Dominik is, even though he is not good to his father and is very mean and sadistic, he is a talented wrestler. He's good on the mic. He has charisma, and fans react. Even though they boo him, fans react to him, because the worst thing that can happen to a wrestler is fans are quiet. They don't care either way about him. But if you get a wrestler where the fans either boo or cheer him loudly, then that's it. That's all you want as a wrestler, because it means that you're going to have a long career, because people care. They care to hate Dominik, and that is big. And obviously, there have been some questions about whether or not the boos that we hear on WWE TV when Dominik shows up, are they real from the crowd, or are they piped in sound effects? Because as we know, after WWE did the Thunderdome, they kind of learned how to do fake crowd noise. And WWE basically has fake crowd noise going through the whole TV show now. Raw has fake crowd noise from beginning to end. SmackDown does too. Even pay-per-views. And you can hear it. You can tell when the technician is pushing play on boos or cheers. Because I remember watching recently an episode of Raw from 2013. And I couldn't believe how quiet it was in the arena. And Vince McMahon and Roman Reigns were out in the ring doing a segment. And it was just so quiet, even though there were 10,000 people in the arena. It was so quiet in 2013 compared to today, where there's just constant crowd noise. It's just kind of either ambient crowd noise, or it's just over-the-top cheers or over-the-top boos. So getting back to whether or not the Dominik boos are piped in, I would personally have to say they are piped in, just because they're so over the top. And if you look at the audience members, you can see that most of them aren't doing anything. They're just standing there. They're not booing. They're not doing anything. And that's kind of the one of the telltale signs that I look at with WWE now. When I hear these over-the-top crowd noises, I look at the crowd and I look to see, is anybody actually cheering? Are they actually booing? Do they care? And most of the time, they don't. And WWE is just piping in fake crowd noise because they're putting in what they want to have happen. Oh, we want this person to be cheered. Fake crowd noise. We want this person to be booed. Fake crowd noise. If the crowd is not reacting. Sometimes, yes, you get 100% real reactions, real chants. And that's great when it happens. But WWE, as we know, they want to control everything, and they don't like when the crowd does things that they have no control over. So, is Dominik being really booed that much? He's being booed, but I think they are piping in some of the boos. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's all 100% real, organic. It's just because they're using a lot of canned crowd noise, I just have to think that the boos for Dominik are just part of that canned crowd noise that they're currently using. And obviously, stay tuned to Wrestling News Now, as we will keep you up to date on the Rey Mysterio Hospital situation. What are your thoughts about Dominik Mysterio causing Rey Mysterio to get injured and taken to the hospital? Leave a comment and give me your opinion. Subscribe and click the bell notification, and check out Wrestling News Now Insider. Click on the link to visit it now for brand new exclusive videos.